Ahoy there, this is Chief Bones, and I'd like to thank you for joining me again. Welcome to Way Anchor. So earlier today on the World of Warships development blog, a troubling note was posted, and I'm going to read part of it to you right here, and this is directly from the developers. Quote, test versions of the ships La Terrible and Giulio Cesare will be added for testing. Italian battleship Giulio Cesare will be tested at a Tier 6 without changing the characteristics except for the basics tied to the tier, the chance of fire and armor plating that will be increased from 19 to 25 millimeters. These changes are due to the fact that the battleship is too strong at her tier, and we have decided to conduct a test iteration of the ship in the new environment. If the test is successful, it will be adopted as a balance change of the ship. In this event, owners will be given the option to exchange the ship for doubloons. Okay, so I'm of two minds of this, right? I'm all about balance. I believe that all ships should be balanced in order for the gameplay to be fair and fun and engaging, and not in the quote-unquote fun and engaging way. But I believe that it has been said several times that wargaming would never change a battleship. Wargaming would never change a premium ship that was paid for with real players' money. And then what this does is it says, hey, look, this entire port of yours that you have all these premium ships in that you spend all this money on, be it through buying the ships directly or buying them in a package or buying them, buying groups of Santa containers or Lunar New Year containers and all these ships pumped out. Well, it doesn't matter. This stuff that you purposefully put your money behind in order to play, your money doesn't matter. We're going to do what we feel is right. At the same time, I look at it this way. A premium ship is not meant to be the end-all be-all, right? It's not meant to be pay to win. And World of Warships has, for the most part, done a pretty good job of avoiding pay to win. The only things that might ruffle some feathers is, like, say, the ships that have radar probably before any other ships in their tier, like Atlanta, maybe Indianapolis. Does Indianapolis have it? I don't recall. But the thing is that these ships are made premium because they are unique in one way or another. They are historical, or they have a play style that's somewhat different from other ships in that tier, even same class ships in that tier. And changing them to be worse is kind of a betrayal of the purchasing agreement, right? And I don't mean a written agreement where the contract was made that, hey, this is precisely what you're buying. I mean the agreement that you spent your money on this thing that was advertised to you in this manner, and now we're going to make it worse, despite the fact that it's been around for a year, despite the fact that it's gone through rigorous testing, despite the fact that we knew ahead of time that this was a powerful ship and people were playing it really well. We're going to change that. We're going to make it harder for anybody moving forward to achieve the kind of success that has been achieved to this point. I think it sets a bad precedent that you can nerf a ship. Now, technically, this isn't really a nerf, right? This is it's what the Army might call a lateral promotion from Specialist 4 to Corporal, right? Something like that. It's a change. It's still not going to be a weak ship. It's still going to be very competitive. But there's no improvement of the Sigma mentioned. There's no improvement of the ballistics mentioned. There's no improvement of the damage mentioned. just the basic tied to tier stuff, which, when taken as a whole, it is kind of a sideways nerf. And that upsets me. It really does, because I personally have put a lot of money into this game. And I think that there are a lot of other people who have too. And for the very few people who are on the fence about getting a premium ship with their hard-earned money, they see that down the road something like this could happen. Well, that's going to dissuade them from spending the money in the future. But again, I'm really torn on it. I think there's a very good chance that this is actually pretty good for the game, but it's somewhat damaging to the trust that the consumer has in the developers. I mean, what happens if next week they decide they don't like how the Irium plays versus the rest of the ships in tier, or they don't like how the Enterprise plays because its rockets are super fast, or it doesn't like how the Kutuzov plays or the Belfast plays, or blah 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 blah. People who own the ship, of course, can trade it in for doubloons, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so the next part is for the test version of the destroyer La Terrible. And this one's not getting nerfed. This one's actually getting buffed, which I think it pretty much desperately needed. It's a rough ship to play. It's hard to play unless you play it like a cruiser. And I quote from the blog, test version of destroyer La Terrible gets improved ballistics. Initial AP shell velocity increased from 800 to 840 meters per second. The Krupp value for AP shells is now 2400 instead of 2100. That will increase armor penetration. Change the allocation of hit points on the ship. The new system will increase the survivability of the ship and allow her to survive longer under enemy fire. If the test is successful, it will be adopted as a balance change for the ship. So, anybody who knows me, anybody who watches me knows that I like to take ships that are underperforming. I like to take ships that everybody complains about and hates, and I try to make them good, right? I try to do well on them. I'm talking Huang He, I'm talking Yubari, I'm talking about all the people complaining about the Prince Idol Friedrich, I'm talking about the Krasny Krim, which I just got a Kraken in earlier in the day. 6 kills, should have been 8, got robbed a couple times. I think that this is really good for this ship. The La Terrible has some pretty cool DPS. The problem is that once it opens up, it's as fragile as, any light cruiser without any real means of escape. Okay, so the high speed is awesome. The high speed is great, and the super high speed, when you add that booster in, is really awesome too. But it doesn't lend itself to being the gunboat that it's trying to be. And giving it some more survivability is more or less essential when you're not planning on giving it any sort of escaping skills, any smoke or anything of that nature. Frankly, I think you should give it like the British half-second smoke so it can lose detect, and have it just puff once or twice and then keep running. Or better yet, I don't know, give it a heal like the Kid. I think that would be nice too. But we'll have to see how these changes come out. I'm not sure how I feel about the changes at large, but it could be worse. Anyhow, see you next time, guys.